Mark Zuckerberg's pursuit of building a successful metaverse just got trickier, as other tech giants like Apple have also decided to join the race. And now, the Meta CEO has said that the two companies are now in direct competition to build out the future of the internet. Is that actually true though? Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about Zuckerberg's statement and Apple's covert attack on Meta, so keep watching. First off, Meta and Apple lock horns in a philosophical battle. On the surface, Apple and Meta don't exactly look like direct competitors. After all, one company's all about selling smart hardware, while the other one's trying to build out this VR world. In reality though, they're both actually converging toward the same point. Apple, for instance, has been fleshing out its augmented reality tech for a few years now, and apparently, they're ready to launch a headset to go against the Meta Quest. And this is exactly why Mark Zuckerberg believes that he's in a quote-unquote deep philosophical competition with the Cupertino giant. Earlier this month, the Meta CEO called a meeting with his employees to discuss the brand's strategy going forward. Then, he hammered on the fact that it's going to be a close fight with Apple to determine what direction the internet should go in. What's more, there seems to be a real divergence of philosophies here, with Meta trying to incorporate VR with AR, and Apple just preferring augmented reality as its own thing. On top of that, it's a bit strange hearing something like this from Zuckerberg, because even if the iPhone maker is trying to compete in the space, it doesn't have anywhere near the investment or the foothold that the Facebook giant has. Still, when you're talking about shaping the future of the entire internet, you've got to look ahead and tackle all possibilities. Plus, we've seen just how quickly Apple can pounce on these openings with an industry. According to the Meta CEO, however, this is just the beginning. Up next, how will Meta position itself against Apple? Now, the first question that comes to mind after hearing all this is, how do you even tackle the unknown? Like, sure, Apple's trying to make its own metaverse, but other than that, we don't know anything about their plans. At the same time, though, this is exactly what makes this a philosophical competition. For instance, Meta doesn't have to launch a product that directly competes against Apple hardware. Instead, they're trying to go down a completely separate route. Oh, and this is what Zuckerberg echoed in his meeting as well. Speaking with his employees, the Facebook founder said that their Cupertino rivals believe that they can do everything by themselves and build a more coherent ecosystem by integrating their already existing tech. And to be fair, Apple's main source of success is its walled garden approach, as its devices can communicate with each other and work in a far more efficient manner. Then again, Mark believes in letting experts handle their stuff, because that can not only harbor results quicker, but also potentially result in a better product. Not only that, but specializing across different countries can also allow a much larger ecosystem to exist. Still, Meta isn't just banking on its vision to outdo the competition. As a matter of fact, it also wants to position itself as the more open, cheaper platform. After all, we can all pretty much agree that an Apple-branded AR headset isn't going to be a budget-friendly option. What's more, Meta is trying to go down the Android route. The Android versus iOS debate has been going on for well over a decade, and no matter what your personal preference is, you've got to admit that they've both got their sets of pros and cons. On one hand, you've got Apple's super efficient walled garden, while on the other hand, you've got Google's open source approach. Guess which way Meta is trying to go? Yep, the Facebook giant has already teamed up with other companies like Microsoft and Epic Games to set up the Metaverse Open Standards Group. It essentially works like Android, as it allows consumers to take their virtual goods across different forms of the metaverse. Now, of course, all of this is easier said than done, but hey, at least they're trying. Interestingly, one name that's missing from the group is, obviously, Apple, and according to Zuckerberg, it's going to be tricky to figure out whether their ecosystem's going to be open or closed. Still, it's not hard to make some educated guesses based on what's been leaked so far. For instance, even though the Cupertino giant hasn't actually revealed its grand plan of taking over the internet, it's still got a few products in development. Project Cambria, for instance, is a headset that can apparently blur the lines between AR and VR, fully immersing its users in the experience. Also, let's not forget that they aren't actually building out a quote-unquote metaverse per se. In fact, the company's VP Greg Jaws has even gone as far as to say that you'll never catch him using the word metaverse. Instead, they're all in on mixed reality, not to mention Meta's massive audience. One of the biggest challenges that Zuckerberg's facing currently is convincing people that his metaverse is actually worth it. Like, there's a ton of skepticism surrounding his plan, which, to be fair, makes total sense. In fact, the situation is so dire that the company's stocks are at an all-time low. Oh, and just for context, even Home Depot is worth more than the tech giant right now, so things aren't looking great. At the same time though, the Facebook founder believes they can easily make up the numbers despite their slow start. How? Well, for starters, their digital commerce platform continues to be an absolute behemoth. Plus, thanks to its integration with their social media platforms, it's going to be pretty easy to transport 1 billion people over to the Metaverse by the end of the decade. And that's pretty much it for the quote-unquote mega plan. Just make the platform as open as possible and flood it with bodies. Whether it ends up working in real life, however, is another question. Now for Apple's tightening grip on the industry. Of course, the Metaverse isn't the only front where Zuckerberg and Tim Cook are trading punches. In fact, Apple's recent attack can do a lot more immediate damage than most people realize. If you're not up to speed though, then here's the breakdown. Essentially, the iPhone maker takes a 30% cut from all the sales that are made through its app store. So, if you buy some currency in Candy Crush or subscribe to an app via the store, a third of that cash is going straight into Apple's pockets. But until now, this didn't include extra revenue from social media posts, meaning that the Facebooks and YouTube of the world were still largely untouched. With the company's latest App Store guidelines, however, all of that's about to change. Apparently, Apple's now demanding a cut of advertisement revenue from other tech giants that use its ecosystem. Anyone who buys a boost on these platforms will also be paying a cut to Apple. Oh, and if you're thinking about Meta's current method of taking payments directly, well, they can kiss that goodbye too, because the new rule covers everything on its operating system. In an official statement, the tech giant said that the App Store guidelines have been clear for many years now, as all digital goods and services sold within an app must use Apple's system. So, while this change may sound draconian, it's just stopping companies like Meta from finding loopholes by using external payment methods. Coming up, Meta's response. Now, if you're Meta, you're probably slamming your fist against the table right now. After all, Apple has just swooped in and cut down your biggest source of revenue. What's more, you can't really do anything about it either because, at the end of the day, you are using their platform. And that's exactly what Meta spokesperson Tom Chanik said as, according to him, the iPhone maker changing its mind is not a good look for the industry. Speaking to Verge, he said that Apple continues to evolve its policies to grow its own business while undercutting others in the digital economy, and that, in and of itself, can't be good for anyone's overall growth. Finally, this ain't Apple's first rodeo. When you put on your objective sunglasses and look at this whole shebang, then you can't help but sympathize with Meta. Like, sure, they're making a ton of cash, but Apple's been doing this for a while now, and they're not the first company to fall victim to it either. For instance, if you remember, Epic Games had a very long court case against the company last year for this very reason. The point is that the Cupertino giant's gonna continue to push the limits of what's acceptable to increase its profits. And when you start talking about growth in stock prices, then doing this almost seems unsustainable without undermining someone else. At the end of the day though, it's their platform and they can do whatever they want with it. Plus, even though these new rules may not feel very ethical, you can't really argue against them either. So we're just gonna grab our popcorn and watch these giants duke it out against each other. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think that Apple's being unfair by demanding an extra 30% cut? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.